All right, there it goes. On my screen, I couldn't get that intro to disappear so I could get things going. That's okay. They're hacking. So Lenexa PD drives by. I had to get online after that. I mean, there's a range of sirens that we expect to hear, right? Remember that thing with like Bigfoot, Sasquatch? It was a siren or something. I can't remember the movie. I think it was like a Walt Disney movie or something. So again, it's strange because the siren starts like it winds up, and you're like, yeah, okay, there's a siren. And then about halfway through it, it goes. It just dies and like wails. Like, what is that? I think it's the wiring. You got to get more power to your siren. Like crazy every time they go by. Everyone's like, yeah, what is that? Because you expect a certain sound. A flow. They got sounds like, I got no idea what they think they're doing with that thing. Like, wait, I think I got a sound over here. Let's see how this works. I get this thing to go. That looks pretty low. I don't think I got to figure out how to turn it up. I got this sound thing here. I got to turn it up all the way. I don't know why it's not working. That one got loud, right? We'll be back in a second.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right. So I have that set up with my Unify app. Now, Rogue can be expensive. I noticed that, but they have a pretty good build. They have one of the higher quality builds on most of what they do. I'm never lucky with Rogue. Usually, I buy their stuff. I think this stuff I'll be lucky with, but I had to overcome the blocks. Actually, I am lucky with Rode because my Wireless Go 2, I can use it now. That's the recording, that little thing, actually a wireless mic system, and you can use lavaliers with it, any 3.5 millimeter mic. And you can use audio going in, which is where I'm going with this. So it wasn't working. If it worked, I'd just be walking around going, and I, wouldn't do what I did. I've been trying for about a year or more, probably a year and a half or so, to get on a belt my IO44, my Revelator. And I wasn't going to put the two together, but because that didn't work, I put that together so I can control the volume, even though it's so big. It has a lot not adjustable when I'm on Android or on that type of system. I can run it independent of any phone. I just plug it into a battery, but on anything other than Windows and Mac, I can't adjust everything like you want to adjust the mixer and all that. But I do have like volume and headphone volume, and I think I can do a high pass filter. And there's 2 presets. So I do have the option of using the effects, but I don't have the ability to alter it. But that's okay. I could, it's going to be recorded, and then I'm going to look at it anyway. So I could change something if I wanted, which I don't think I have to. It's a pretty decent sound. But what that did is it allowed me to drop the volume going in. The Lav 2 was too hot for that. Now, you would say, okay, it was made for you to connect to your shirt, not your boom. Yes and no. Because it still brings in the outdoor noise, the background noise. It's not as, I might be wrong, and I have to try it again in a couple different scenarios, but I don't think it's as isolated as the Lav 1. It's better in certain ways, Lav 2, but when it comes to background noise, I think it picks up more background noise. But then again, certain situations it might not. So when I put it all together, it was in the green zone, wasn't in the yellow at all. Really nice. So what that tells me also is the mic, or not necessarily the mic, the meter on the Wireless Go 2 is pretty correct when you're in the danger zone. Most times I have to be in the yellow to have it loud enough. It's pretty much the upper edge of the green, and I'm doing well. All right, something's cutting out here, and I have no idea why, because I haven't changed anything, and I'm actually speaking directly into the mic. Somebody might be hacking my noise gate. What they do is if they change the values in your noise gate, your graphical user interface, the GUI, this thing that you adjust all your sound things with, ain't. But if they inch up on your noise gate a couple decibels, then your voice might cut out. Or if the background noise comes in. So again, you don't even have to do anything to of what the mic controls are. You simply hack in and they change the values, and it no longer does the same thing with the same control. That's one of their spycraft. It's actually psychological torture after a while. At first, you could call it a prank, I guess. It's still illegal. That's one of the things they do. So that is what it is. We'll do 3. All right, so let's go over to my Twitter and see what's going on. Now, the question is, does it remain focused over here? I guess it does. I'm going to speak about my Twitter. Oh, well, real quick. Matt Fogg there. He's, he has his own independent thought. I don't agree with everything he says, but we're human and we don't agree. You don't even agree with your best friend, but you're in an illusional mind. That's why you'll see women that run around and get abused by guys having sex. They're like the Me Too woman. You're like, well, wait a minute. This is, that guy's okay though. The government's full of people like that. Absolutely full of people like that. So what they've done, they've taken that attitude that used to be in government, like they're being sexually harassed by everybody but the guy that's actually sexually harassing them and having sex with them. And that's where I think Danielle Marks was. She saw what was going on. So when that was going on in the government, that was the time to stop it. But they didn't. They enlarged it. They protected it. Made it their reality. That the only people not sexually harassing people were people that were sexually harassing people. And then when they get busted, they say, well, it's an investigative technique. Investigative. No. We can do these things. And then it culminates with a DHS employee agent in a massage parlor orgasming as part of his job. I mean, this is really where they are. They're nutsos. So what's happening is it became, and maybe it was back then, I just didn't know. I guess it was because they said something was going on around me, and I guess it was. So when I was in the government, I guess it was there, but it's really huge now. You have people in government that are sexual saying that everybody else is a pervert. And to get it there, they're sexualizing everyone that they want to. So what are they doing? They're taking the same person, which is really intense. I know for a fact there are agents of government that use that to cause a woman to have sex with them. They'll isolate a woman. They'll get a woman isolated until she gives in. So they do the same thing out here. And then the people in the church, well, if God is with you, you would stand. But you're working with the devils that are sexualizing people. The first thing is you have to recuse yourselves because you're part of it. You can't even judge it. But you're the ones who are playing bait girl in church. You're entering ability into that location. Somebody might be sexual outside the church, but when they come into a church, they cut that off. I mean, that's normal if somebody's like that. You're projecting sexuality in church, in the Gurdwara, in the Hindu temple, in the synagogue, in the mosque, for money and for status in your community and to be forgiven of whatever crime you engaged in, and that may also be sexual in nature. So again, even though I knew I was being spycraft operated, it took years, decades to figure out that everywhere I went, since probably just about my first day in government, involved bait women and a couple of bait guys, sexually so. And then when I would go to church, that's not where they wanted me. And if I was there, I had to be sexual. But I wasn't. But people around me were. Did sexual thought enter in? Of course, you possessed my mind. Did I act on it? No. But what they did was they tried to normalize sexuality everywhere. So what happened? No, it isn't the liberals. Conservatives do this to get at somebody. If you can take a person that's part of the conservative world and sexualize them, and especially homosexualize them, oh boy, they can put them out all they want. Not that I was homosexualized. I was struggling to get with a woman, and they kept trying to gay me. And I'm still ready to be with a woman if she'll be real, but most of them look like bait women at this point. I'm not saying it's every woman I meet. And that's a sin, and God will react to that. So again, when a police officer, and again, I could drive down the street and be hit by a car, and it could be Satan doing it, not God. But I know for a fact what's going on. And the mirror I showed and the healing I showed before I ever once badmouthed law enforcement should have told you to listen to me first before God got to this point. So again, there's a lot of connectivity that God is attempting to move. Again, this is not your father's kingdom. Don't listen to the idiots in church that are part of the sexualization crew and the isolation crew. Isolation is part of sexualization. They deny somebody any type of stimulus and then overload them with the wrong type of stimulus. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sexuality in a marriage and in a long-term relationship, because God told me this. He said, I tell you when to get married, and I tell you when to get divorced. I marry you and I divorce you. The state has, this is before gay marriage or any of that. God said, they have nothing to do with marriage in reality. Now, again, God and I believe what Jesus said, and that you render your taxes unto Caesar. And when it's time to get married, you get married, so you're recognized. But God told me, they don't marry you. I told you to get divorced at a certain point in your marriage, and you couldn't hear me. Because this is what really happened. So they operate my wife, and she wants to get divorced for like no reason whatsoever, although she was cheating on me. I was in the Merle's, the one that stands out, a bunch of times she says things, and again, she was toying with me, but they got in there and they messed it around because I could fix it. When we got out of the Army and I went to Philadelphia, they were there. Okay? 100% there. Trying to do what they finally did, like 12 years later. And they're telling me it was Philadelphia Police Department was a big part of it, as far as being the deep state within that organization. So she wanted to get divorced. But what happened at a certain point, I said, we got kids. Let's just stay together. We got kids. And it really wasn't anything that bad with our marriage. It's just they had operated her into another state of mind. And I mean, they're devils. They watch you and they curse you to be a criminal, to be gay, to be divorced, everything bad they can think of. And they go, well, you're doing the same thing to me. No, not really. I healed you for a long period of time, but I'm not sitting in your life cursing you, watching you buy something on Amazon, curse that item, watch you go to Walmart, buy something there, curse those items. I'm not doing that. Watch you speak to a woman, curse that, and pay somebody money to go to have sex with the woman and date her until until I move on or she moves on somewhere else. They've done that with tax dollars, not only private sector money, but tax dollars. And they do it. So again, I'm trying to help you all understand. But what happened there is, let me finish with this one. Eventually what kicked in was the future. Somewhere in the future that never happened, my wife realized what it meant to leave me. and it all came back together again. So if they had blinded my wife, she would have continued on with her nonsense. All right. So what happens is God's trying to put together a continuity because they say, well, why doesn't God this? Why doesn't God that? I've already explained it a million times. Your church is a nutbag. We'll put it that way. Your church is a nutbags. The Bible does not say anything close to what they're saying. It does say what they're saying, but you can't apply it without the other parts. And it's kind of like the idea of going to Genesis and then trying to rule out the rest of the Bible and then take a statement from Romans and apply it with the thought process in Genesis. Again, you're undoing you're undoing Paul's work. Now, I explained when I woke up, I thought Paul messed up Jesus. But that's because I had been instructed in the church in what Paul was saying. And it was false. Paul was crushed. Yeah! Angel's yelling at me. But the reality is that Paul was right, but he went through the throes of awareness and awakening. And at a certain point, he realized what? Wait a minute here. Let's not judge each other. Come on. You can't rebuke without judging. See how that works? Even if Paul didn't understand everything he said, we're further forward. We have so much awareness as far as the deeper meaning of what was being said. And again, a lot of times people don't understand spiritual sight, and it's really illegal to speak about it. You're crazy. People believe in that world. The secret society said it's illegal to speak about vision and seeing in any real substantial way so people would understand what it is. So this idea of what's actually going on in the world around us, we get to some simple truths. Now, they'll say, well, but more. Paul said, just love everyone. That's the culmination of what Paul said. Now, I'm not a person that says I'm helping somebody by hurting them. But we're in a very strange time right now. And if I could have completed my life just healing everyone, then that's the direction it would have went. I still heal people. I still fall in love with, so many women. I just don't, I'm not going to talk to them and see if they're real or not. It's not worth the time of day. I mean, so they can get paid another $1,000 from some crooked cop or some, corrupt PI that works for an organized crime entity somewhere. This is what they said today. They said, those crypto people? A ton of those. That's how they paid these people. They got them into crypto. So if you became a criminal spycraft operator, they led you to Bitcoin and crypto and all of that. And all of a sudden, they're like sitting on top of the world, right? Even Zuckerberg, he was being paid tons of money. I mean, he's still wealthy, but now he's wondering what it all meant. So all that money's disappearing, and the people like Zuckerberg and the people that work for him, they're having a little bit of trouble. People that are working for Musk, they got axed. They used to work for Jack and all that. And there's other people, and it's a religious conversation per se, but it's not a political conversation whatsoever. But what happened is those people that were just these people that they said, hey, I got an idea. Let's go do this for me. And all of a sudden they get put into this big world and they're at the club, they're famous. And all of a sudden they got crypto coming out their ears and they're just laughing and having a great life. When the crash hit, they're not Zuckerberg. They're not sitting there with jobs. Some of them got fired, but even some of them were independently wealthy at that point. They've got nothing. They're down at zero. And everything they ever made for being evil is gone. That's what's going to happen when you die, all of you. Irregardless. God's showing you, look, this is what's going to happen if you happen to keep all your wealth your entire life. You'll be a pauper in hell, and worse than a pauper, because you'll be in hell, real hell, not the hell you cause on earth, all of you. So again, God's trying to connect the dots. And when I was and he's also giving me additional information so I can look back and go, yeah, because I'm not a psychic to go, system psychic. And the system psychic wills something and Satan says, look, it happened. System psychic said this. Prophecy works like this. That is the future unless there's a change. If I sat down with a subject, and I think we're kind of doing it a little bit with the horror houses. But I could sit down with a subject and I could update you every day and the prophecy would change if things change. Could get worse, could get better. Are we still online? Hello. Hopefully you hear me. Actually, I'm just not sure if I take the focus away if it's still broadcasting. I'll find out later, I guess. I was on a different page. Or a different tab. So when I was in Oklahoma, I was wondering if the cop was run over by the car and killed because of the operation. Now, I was drugged there, and the operation was much thicker. So the vision was a lot less. And I kind of thought maybe, but there wasn't enough to say yes. Now, I know what you've been up to here. And then your police officer got hit, the same as in Edmond. And it wasn't like in the city I'm living in. I wasn't living in Edmond there either. So again, the patterns that you try to psychologically torture my mind with, God and I use to analyze what's going on. Again, they know how a mind works and they know how to torture it. I showed them that before that ever existed physically. So again, these are the things that have been happening over years. Again, no, it's blue lives matter, or no, it's white lives. It's none of that. Again, that's the illusion. There's good and bad people everywhere. My opinion is this about Matt Fogg and all that. I don't believe it's ultimately racism, but the system that I speak about empowers racism. And if that's what they have to do to get paid for what the government did to them or to get something righted, then go ahead. I mean, more power to them there. I don't have anything against that. And in fact, they laugh. Go, look at the black people. They're making money or not. That's what they do. This is what marshals and FBI agents and local police and state police and DHS do all day. Project those kind of thoughts at their victims, while the real criminals just pull a few dollars out and grease their palms. And if it's not that deputy marshal's palm, it's his marshal's palm. Or the SAC's palm. Or if the SAC investigates it and says, I got this case, the U.S. attorney's paid off. And he can't get it prosecuted. FBI agents cannot take cases in front of the court alone. And that's happened quite a bit. Because Matt Gaetz gave him the money. I mean, come on. Not that I'm against Matt Gaetz, but let's be honest, you know? But again, I don't believe in prosecuting it. The law. I believe that each citizen has a right to life, liberty, happiness, peace, prosperity, domestic tranquility. Which means if we don't have to prosecute them, don't do it. If we can fix their lives so it doesn't go wrong. And again, there's violent crimes and things like that. And we really can't look the other way on those. But yet you look the other way on those when it involves a law enforcement officer. If it's not pull out your gun and shoot the person dead and laugh and call them an N-word. I mean, again, there's a standard where it's twisted. They are psychologically killing people. And that's what leads to the Tyree event. Trump won't tell you about it. I mean, he gets close, but he won't speak about it because he would no longer have his house, his job, his church, whatever it is he likes to do. And he knows that. But again, he's out there as kind of Nicodemus. Still part of the Sanhedrin, but asking Jesus questions. Well, he makes money for a client. Do I agree with every case he's ever taken? No. I don't have to. That's some weird stuff you all came up in the partner program. You have to, I guess it does say if you're not with me, you're against me. It's in the Bible. But, it's taken to the extreme at this point. That you have to be with them every jot and tittle. Of course, you can't because half of it's demonic. Again, physical law enforcement is not what Jesus was speaking about. So that falls into respecter of persons. And in fact, half of what they do is demonic. The Bible says you're not allowed to cause anybody to fall. I don't care if we're law enforcement and we have to, and this program, what happened over the years is that sting operation type things, which developed into spycraft operations with CIA technology, where they alter a person immeasurably to just change the paradigm and change the person into the crime. All right, is it still going? See if the sound's coming through. Hello, hello, hello. All right, is it still going? All right, there it is. There it is. See if the sound's coming through. What they're doing is they wouldn't change my address on my all my cellular products, which kept me in Oklahoma long enough for them to use their criminal contact in my internet, or I guess my internet and my cellular company, wireless company, so they could find where I was operating out of in this state. It's not about a criminal investigation. It's about criminals in government attempting to murder somebody who was operated criminally by their people so that they would never be held accountable for their capital crimes. But it involves government and private sector. So what they did is every time I tried to change my address, they wouldn't. I finally got it totally changed last night. And I've done it 4 or 5 times, but they're watching me while I'm doing it online. And they project these thoughts. Oh, you messed up. You didn't get it right. So what they're doing is keeping me based out of Oklahoma when I move to Kansas so they can interfere with the operation here. So they found out what towers I was operating out of, and somebody is messing with that. Could be somebody that works for Verizon, could be somebody in the government. But it also could be Russians. And it's not about what I'm saying, because they'll tell you, do you notice when we did it, when he said something? That means they feel uncomfortable with what they're doing, because they're looking for an excuse about what they're doing. Looking for an excuse to give everyone this the content of what he's saying. It's not, believe me. And they'll say, well, if you just stop speaking about it, you would see. Well, no, I wouldn't see, because it wouldn't change. Again, this thing's pretty loud all of a sudden. I'm not sure what it was doing. So they moved this sexualization operation, the sting operation in, causing other people to fall. It became everything. In fact, there was a DHS agent, like I said, he was in a real sexual scenario within a massage parlor location, and he actually went to climax. Now, me, I was simply going to a massage place about the same period of time, within give or take 6 months, and they tried to set me up. They tried to get women to turn me on while they were blocking me from all relationship. I was confused. I was like, does this woman like me? That's where my mind is. She want to date me or something? You know, I know she said she had a kid. That a lot of women that have kids young, they don't know how to date someone. They only know how to jump in the sack. So I gave her my card. And I said, you know, this is who I am. I figured maybe she's wanting to talk to me outside of this place, but it's not going to be sexual. Here, when it's all said and done, I realized I was being set up. And even if I wasn't sexual, they were going to say something to cover themselves. But they had done it to me so long, I was zapped when it happened. And they know that. They use spycraft women on me for probably 30 years at this point, and actually longer. There's probably one other one that was back in the 80s, but I'm not sure. But I wouldn't know if she was spycraft. I guess that could have been a sting. And what they do is they twist your mind. They know what they're doing to twist your mind. So when they're trying to make you gay, they torture you with women all day long. A woman may meet you because she wants to have a relationship with you. It's getting a little bit loud. I can see that. There might be a woman that wants to have a relationship with you, and she may meet you, but within a day or two, she'll be working for them or be gone. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit and see if that works better. Hello, hello, hello. It goes up a little bit high, but still okay. So again, there's agents that say that they can't work the case because I've been adulterated so much. They could look through it and get it to work, but using the FBI system, it's not going to work because what they've done, they've weaponized psychology, knowing how to trip the triggers in the FBI system of behavioral analysis. DHS, Marshal Service, all of them. Local police, state police, they're all into it. All in. So that's what they're really doing when they're stinging someone. They're actually flipping the triggers of behavioral analysis by adulterating the person. I will tell you, in the files, wherever they are, there was about 0.01% of the things they did to me. That's really what it is. And exculpatory, there are people that ended up on the case again, and they said exculpatory information disappeared out of the file. Now, I haven't spoke to anybody physically, but they talk to me all day in my mind. Although talk is cheap, so we speak. So again, we're in Luke 10. I am a healer. You prayed to God. He sent me, and you tried to kill me. There's no wrath like Luke 10, I'll tell you that. There just isn't. Now, Jesus is already here in the spirit. I don't know if it gets any more physical than that. Pretty soon, Jesus will change his name to Murphy and lay down the law. What else is on here? I'm trying to see what's on. Yeah, we all know that one, right? I have a bunch of slides here. We all know that one. It's in my on my app. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, you can't tell the bit of the truth without becoming their enemy. Or if you can't tell the evil ones. So again, law enforcement answers 911 calls. Hannity explain that to us, how this works. But Matt Fogg would have answered your 911 calls a lot more than they would have in a better way if he was there. I would have. John Luna would have. Assistant Director Dudley, he would have. Begin to understand what's going on here. Again, if Satan takes over the government, it doesn't mean that Satan isn't going to answer 911 calls. In fact, that's how Satan works that. Because of that. You see. So again, that's what law enforcement is doing. That's what Hannity is doing. Now, as far as Republicans in Florida go, their crime is pretty bad, but they have some smaller cities. Their programs don't work. What they do is they lie about the statistics most of the time. Like I said, if the Democrats are going to feed the poor people, then more power to them because nobody's worth anything in government anyway. Might as well just wait for the end. And they're worth a lot less today than they were yesterday. What's this one say? If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Malcolm X. Now, today, it takes a little bit more spycraft than it did in Malcolm's time. See, when Malcolm was speaking about the newspapers, he was speaking about the FBI and CIA. And there it is. I'm your enemy because I tell you the truth. But, it's better than you ending up there. That's like a game logo or something. I understand there's a game like that or something. Where people go to hell. See what this looks like. Head shrinkers. Government's a head shrinker. Shrunk his head till he was dead. Hey, God said I missed the cue. I was supposed to make this woman director of the DEA. Or try to, at least. I don't even know who she is. I read a caption, I think, when I downloaded it. I forget what I used it for. So, what we see going on is not what's happening. People are being sexualized. If you're a liberal, they'll sexualize you just by the nature of wanting to say you're a sexual liberal. Meanwhile, all the Republicans are running around with the campaign staff grabbing their crotches. I'll be back in a second. I have to take a quick little break to find my coffee if I can find it.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go. So, there it is again. Like I said, in the church. Again, it takes a while to really unfold all of this and decompress it and then articulate it. I'm in a massage place. I have no desire to have sex in a massage place. But what is the government doing? Entering sexuality in. And they have private sector cronies that'll be told to do it and then at a certain point call them in. And sometimes it's CIA, not private sector cronies, but that's what they say. So here you enter into an environment. They're not testing. I know the difference between a test and sexualization. I may not in the moment have realized it exactly, but I wasn't trying to have sex with anyone in a massage place, and I would actually want to get to know her first for a while. I mean, I might not be able to make it till marriage, but it wasn't going to happen like it did. And when it happened, when I had my one night stand until I had my one night stand, or was it a one night stand? Yeah, I didn't have one night stand. It was the first time I ever had sex outside of my wife. It was like we had been married probably about 12 years at that, maybe longer than that, about 12 years, and 13 years. And I was separated. But when that happened, I was still in the government. I was still asleep. So I could come into my room and they still mess with my internet, but it's not the same as everybody coming around you. And I'm not knowing what they're doing to me. Because I'm asleep. I have no awareness and no awareness that CIA and spycraft would do anything. Let me exist. So I had a one night stand back then, and then I had a girlfriend. So I had like a wife, a real relationship, and a wife, and that was it. And then they psychologically operated me, and part of it was this idea that if you're not gay, you got to show us. Now, was I real time thinking that? No, it was subconsciously affecting me. Because what they were doing was blocking all the women. So one got in. And we had a one night stand. I didn't want to do that. Then I had a girlfriend, and we had some really good dates before the sex, and then it all fell apart once we had sex. And it was her idea, believe me. She even woke up the next morning. And I said, I didn't want to do that. But she had an alcohol problem, so it got there. And again, I'm being sexualized by the government every day for the last, at that point, for the last 11 years, just about. I admit, in the beginning, it wasn't every day, but it got to that point. But it was enough. You're not supposed to enter into a work environment and have the government try to sexualize you. If sex comes and you have that kind of relationship, then that's fine. I'm not going to tell you you can't have workplace relationships. But the government's not allowed to play with that. And that's what it was. They even had this woman that was working for them where I was living my last apartment complex. It was just a big show, the whole thing. They fired people that wouldn't work for them. And moved people out, probably evicted them. But I don't know if they evicted anyone. But they would evict people, believe me. So she tried to get me to believe that it was that I wore a uniform or something like that. I'm like, no. Her job was to try to cover over the truth. I never realized she had a kid. And then she showed me her kid. And I said, this is what it's about. They'll write it up. He seems to only talk to this woman that has a kid. That's the biggest part of the whole thing. Like, I'll go through this time of trying to be friendly with someone. Again, that's my goal. And I'd rather be friendly with women than men. Because I know at the pinnacle of most of these operations is some, I'll leave the choice words out, but some guy. Although there's some women out there that are running their own things. So that was the weird part, because it'd be like, I know nothing about these women. They just show up and I talk to them. And then all of a sudden they bring kids in and act like that's why I was there. I knew they were a single mother. There's no doubt I wanted to help a single mother. And if I could marry one, I'd feel great. The other day, even as old as I am, there's this kid out here and he's running around without his shoes. And I'm like, I feel like, I could just have done wonders for these kids. And he seems like a really nice kid, but he just needs somebody there that's real for him. And again, I'd raise him up to be a magic man and it would be over for all of them. My family screwed up. I know what they did. God explained it all to me, how they moved the powers and all that, and how that affected my life in another direction. At a certain point, it would have been, in today's day and age, I would have been taken away from my parents probably in the 8th grade. Definitely by the 10th grade. But most likely it would happen in 8th grade. So when I go into a massage place, I'm not looking for sex. Am I looking to maybe be friendly with them? And if we could strike up a friendship somewhere, well, that would be great. I mean, they seem to be overly friendly at this point. Again, when I'm going there, I'm not thinking anything of the overly friendly relationship we've all developed. And I'm not pushing anybody into anything. I'm being pulled. But I draw the line at doing anything in a massage environment other than connecting and being happy with one another. Did I get turned on by the women? Of course, that's what their goal was. I mean, that's normal. That's natural. But the key is not to do anything. But yet, they're alleging that that's the risk or something like that. Yet, what happens? At the same time period, a DHS agent just sits in there, receives a quickie thing, happy ending, I guess they call it, and goes to fruition. And he's the hero, right? The theme of my next show was they will call evil good, and they will call good evil. They will call good evil, and they will call evil good. Any way you slice it or dice it, that's what they're doing. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can hide.